Hey, it's the local spotlight show here at WJBM Studios in Jerseyville, Illinois. And we are the voice of the Tri-County. And I am your host today. And with me, I have today a special guest. You might say, well, Chris, all your guests are special, but this one is special. He's a special. It's my cousin, Denzil Lorton. Welcome, Denzil.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes. And actually, I didn't even know you up until just a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what? I can tell you're a Lorton. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You're all Lorton.
Yes.
And we go back, I don't know how close we are, but
300 years.
yeah, 300 years.
In 1701, one of our ancestors came to the colony, Virginia colony, way before we were a country. He came from England.
Yes.
And there are two towns in England, small villages called Lorton, High Lorton, Low Lorton, and then there's a Lorton Vale that they've made into a national park. And it's got waterfalls, a beautiful place. But anyway, so that's the area we came from. And they were also this like, the Stonehenge. They also, our family, they were Celtics. And they believed in building circles of stone. And some of them are still there in that area, the circle stone thing.
All right.
For some reason, it was a part of their religion.
Well, we're going to get into a story about you. But before we get to that, we're going to do a little background. But we're going to talk about your out-of-body experience.
Yes.
But before then, just a little history of yourself. You went to Root House, and that's where our great-great-great-grandfather, Robert Lorton, is buried. And he ended up
in Whitehall.
Yeah,
in
Whitehall.
All of that area between Root House and Whitehall, they used to call, east of Whitehall, they called Lorton's Prairie.
Yeah.
Because that's where our ancestors settled.
Yes. And so we're a part of that, proud to be a part of that,
Absolutely.
Part of that history. And Robert was in 3 battles. He was under George Washington, 4th Virginia.
Yeah, George Washington was his leader.
Yeah.
And he, when the war began, the Revolutionary War, the colonies were losing. The Continental Army could not compete with the British. But anyway, as time went on, they got better. But in the Battle of Germantown, where our great-grandfather was, he split his troops that day, and they got whipped real bad. And our grandfather was shot through the leg with what they called a mini ball, which is what they had in those old days in a single shot musket loaders or whatever. Anyway, so then he took his troops, so after they were pretty well tore up, and he took them to Valley Forge, and they spent a horrible winter in Valley Forge. And
now, did our grandfather go to Valley Forge?
Yes, he went there wounded. And many of the men died from diseases and starvation and freezing to death, but they did build some small log cabins there for the winter. And then he went home back to his farm in the Virginia colony and recovered, and then went back in the fall of the next year and re-signed up to fight again for the colonies. So he had a deep belief in what he wanted to be free and free of a king. And, so they fought until they finally ran the British out,
Yeah. And he crossed the Delaware River with George Washington.
I don't think he was in that particular battle, but that was part of what George Washington's known for, yes. Yeah. And that was
I think he was in that battle.
He might have been.
Yeah, I think he was.
They took boats across the Delaware River, and then it was on a Christmas Eve, and then they surprised what they call the Huns.
Right, the Hessians.
Yeah, and so they won that battle. But he was a sergeant.
It was a turning point for the Revolutionary War.
It was.
Yeah,
yes,
for the Americans. Yeah,
and if it hadn't been for the French helping us, Lafayette, we wouldn't have won. We wouldn't have won.
No,
the French came, and Lafayette brought people to help, and so it was an interesting time.
And Denzil, of course, you grew up in the farming area.
Yes.
You now have some farms, but you got into the communication business early on in your life, and didn't you buy rights for?
Yes, I was what they called a land acquisition person, which I would buy tower sites when we finally got to the cell phone business where they needed towers, and we would buy those or lease them for 30 years. And so there was some legal work that had to be done, and then they would also sell out spots on it to other carriers. But mainly I was on the getting the right-of-way, the having easements signed for the right-of-way. And it was very easy
just
in the areas
to put the towers underground or overground or what?
To make the connections, yes,
okay.
between the towers and between the different central offices in each town. You know, they got to where they were taking in fiber optics, and fiber changed a lot. You know, that's the light traveling or the messages traveling by light, and so much faster and more dependable. And they don't hardly ever use copper anymore. It's all, but I have.
Is everything
fiber optic?
Fiber optic today?
They're trying to get it that way. There are areas that they still do not have it. But today I was watching, and there was a contractor up by Root House that was putting in fiber optic, and they were boring under some creeks and so forth. And they have a lot of capability anymore to do that. And I spent several years doing that, and then during that period of time, I was living on our farm in Virginia, Illinois, and I did farm it physically for a while, and then I started renting it out because the equipment was too expensive for a small farm, and I was getting older. But anyway, I started renting it, and that's worked out fine. And we have some land east of Root House, the old home place. And we still get people to farm it, you know. But
you're retired now.
Yes, I am retired.
And you're 80 years old.
80 years, just turned 80. Yes.
But back in 1955, back when you were 55.
Yes.
55 years old, you had a open bypass surgery, open heart surgery.
Yes.
And you had an experience there like none other.
Yes.
Yeah, an out of body experience. Tell us how that went down.
I will. The out-of-body experience is many people have them, but they have them in many different ways. So I'm certainly not an expert on it, but if you Google out-of-body experience, you'll find many different circumstances. But in my circumstance, I was 55 years old. That's been 25 years ago that I had it done in Springfield at the cardiac center. Prairie Capital Harbor, whatever they call it. Anyway, there at St. John's, and so anyway, the experience was I was having a lot of tightness in my chest. I didn't have a heart attack, but got to the point that I didn't have any energy. To carry groceries in the house, I'd have to carry in one bag and sit down and go back and get one.
And you're pretty young for that, 55.
Yeah. So that made my doctor suspicious, and that's why he sent me to a cardiologist.
Yeah.
And so the cardiologist said, well, the only way we can tell what really is going on, they did an EKG, of course, but he said, we will need to shoot the dye in your heart. It's called a heart catheterization. Mm-hmm. And they run a tube through your groin artery all the way up into your heart, and then that's all on a screen. And then they shoot the dye, and then they can see how well it travels through the arteries, your coronary arteries and so forth. Mine was about 95% blocked.
Ooh,
so
man.
Yeah, it was close to the Widowmaker.
Yes.
But anyway, so they said, and that was, they put me to sleep to do the heart cath, but while I was there, he said, well, tomorrow we're going to do bypass surgery on you.
Wow, 1 day's notice.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go home.
So, you didn't get out of there.
I would be tempted to go if I could. But anyway, they did it, and they put you asleep. I wasn't sure until after it was all done exactly what they were doing. But
hey, I'm gonna if you're just joining us now, I have Denzil Lorton with me, a cousin of mine, and he's about to tell us about his out-of-body experience that happened. All right, so go ahead, Denzil.
Okay. So, wheeled me into the operating room, and then, of course, that was about the last thing I remember. And during the operation, which took 6.5 hours because they found out I needed 5 bypasses. My coronary arteries were so blocked. And, of course, they have to, the procedure goes, they go on the inside of your legs and they cut big, long incisions, maybe 6-inch long incisions to get a hold of the veins that they're going to use for this operation. Then they lay them all out, and they even use your mammary vein, which men have those, and they're one of the more really good veins that we have. But anyway, they lay them all out, and then, of course, they saw you open and pry you apart, and yeah. So, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so during this procedure, they had to stop my heart for 1.5 hours. That they had me on a life support system, but my heart, they had to shut it off for an hour and a half in order to operate on it, and so those coronary arteries, they had to bypass all of those arteries with the veins from my legs. Anyway, so I'm, very unaware of what's going on.
Right.
But all of a sudden, I got somewhat of a consciousness, but my body, actually my spirit, floated up out of my body, and it floated up above the operating table and quite high, and but I could watch him operating on me. And, there was a couple of doctors and cardiologists and surgeons and nurses.
During this hour and a half time of the operation, you were up here watching this go on.
Yes, I was there, and then I kept getting lighter and lighter, and instead of just staying there floating, I started floating off into space, and not even paying attention to what they were doing. But during this, I felt a warmth that went all through my body that was the most unbelievable feeling I'd ever had. I've never had it since, but it was totally at peace. It was like a warmth, like warm water being poured over you. And at that time, then I just thought it was wonderful. And about that time, there was a tunnel, and it was a long black, almost like a tile, field tile or something, but big enough for you to go through. And I started floating towards that tunnel and then started down it.
Was there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, there was.
What kind of light was it?
It was a white light, but it was the brightest light I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was extremely bright. And I was really, I guess you would say, enjoying it because I was wanting to get to that light.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to stop. And I was maybe a third of the way down the light or maybe or down the tunnel for maybe halfway. And I was really excited.
Yeah, and you felt good?
I felt wonderful, yeah. And anyway, so then all of a sudden everything just goes out, and I wake up in the recovery room with tubes sticking out of my body all over the place, and down my throat. So anyway, that ended that particular experience. But anyway, that's when I found out they had to shut my heart off for an hour and a half and keep me operating on me for 6.5 hours. So I don't know. I mean, I would only be assuming that would happen sometimes. To me, it did happen, and sometimes I wonder what would happen if I went on down to the light.
But you told me, you said that you're not afraid of death now.
Not as much, no. I think we all have certain anxieties about death, and they're really, when we're young, they're probably more real than when we get older. We know that is going to happen to everybody. And so our anxieties aren't quite as strong, and I still probably have a little bit of an anxiety about it, but it helped me to accept the fact that we're all going to die. We're all equal. It doesn't make any difference if we've got $1 million or $1 in our pocket. We will all experience the same thing. And so we all will be equal. Death is probably the biggest equalizer of all of us.
Yes.
And so that's the story that I had. Now, after that, I had to go back in 10 years and have a couple of stents put in my heart. So they put me to sleep, and I didn't experience because it was a simple operation. And then 5 years later, they had to put a stent inside of one of the stents they had put in. It had collapsed. So anyway, so they did that. I haven't been back since. But in all those times, I was put to sleep and no experience, no out-of-body experience. And of course, if you
were you a little nervous getting put to sleep? I mean, did you think, well, this could be the time? I mean, the fact that you were out of body that first time?
No, I wasn't afraid for the operation at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was kind of hoping that it would happen. But yeah, it was wonderful. And like you say, if you read about people that drowned, they many times they're dead and they bring them back, and they will testify about the out-of-body experience. Maybe not exactly the way I did, but also car wrecks. There'll be people that can look down and see the actual wreck. Their spirit is above them, and that's what they've testified to. But there are many, many thousands of people that have had that experience, and all in different ways. But I'm glad I had the experience. I wish I had a really good heart, but I'm glad I had the experience. And so at 80 years old, I think I'm very lucky to still be here.
Yes. And do you consider yourself a very religious man?
No, I was raised in a church, a country church out east of Root House, and we went Sunday school and church every weekend. But as I got older and, of course, got more busy, I didn't take the time to go to church. But I always considered myself a Christian, but never a religious person. So I still don't consider myself an extremely religious person, but I believe that I'll be all right.
And you believe that you're looking forward, to the fact that when you got to go, there's a good place to go.
Oh yeah. I'm glad I've got to get to feel that feeling.
Yeah. I came across, after you told me this story, I came across I was checking on YouTube videos, and there's a fella that has interviewed 1,500 people that had out-of-body experiences.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he said they're all similar, but all different.
Yeah.
Everybody has a little bit different, but a lot of the tunnels, the light in the tunnel is happens a lot. And even where they would go up and they would actually maybe go into the waiting room and they would hear people talking back and forth. Mm-hmm. And then after they came back, they would say, "Oh yeah, I heard you say this about me or this and that." Right? And they go, "How could you do that? You were on the operating table."
Yeah.
But isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. No, I never heard anyone saying anything. I could just watch them, And
now, were you in a gown or anything? Do you know what you were wearing?
Well, I imagine I would have been in an operating gown.
I didn't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But anyway, when I came to in the recovery room, I had like a gown on.
Okay. So after that experience, have you shared it a lot with people?
No, not really.
No.
I think there would be probably certain people that might want to hear it, but there'd be a lot of other people that probably wouldn't, But
has anybody ever said, "Oh, you're full of it"? That's not true.
Well, they look at me like I am. But I've been known to tell stories before.
Well, Denzil, any advice to people out there that maybe are getting older? Because you are older.
Yes. I would, in thinking back on my life, and now I'm not so mobile. Back when I was, right after I had that operation at 55, I decided that every day was a bonus. And so I started traveling. I've been to Europe 3 or 4 times, and Africa and Hawaii and Alaska and Costa Rica and all over the Caribbean. Anyway, I never thought anything about spending the money anymore because the experience was well worth it. And so I would recommend to anybody that if they do have the means and they still are mobile where they can get around, because there's some walking involved in this traveling, but if they can get around, to go do it as soon as possible if they have certain places in mind that they'd like to see, and there's so much of the world to see. And there's an old saying that travel makes us less prejudice. And when you see people living the way they have to live in some parts of the world, it makes us feel very lucky. Do you think living here
in America, and in Middle America here, we think that the rest of the world is, we know it's different, but we don't know how different
right.
until you go there.
Yeah, and a third world country like Morocco or someplace in Africa, you see people, all they have is a little herd of sheep or goats and a stick to drive them with, and then a piece of tin that they lay under at night, And
we have so much, don't we?
We have so much.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go very far to see, even like, in some of the coal mining countries in our states, a lot of poverty. And of course, a lot of poverty times is because of a poor education. But Mexico, it's just unbelievable how those people have to live.
Oh, yeah.
And
no wonder everybody wants to come to America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't blame them.
And I would say 99% of them are really good people. I'm
Yes.
sure you have some that aren't. And we do have some whites that are the same thing, But in general, they are just trying to better themselves and to make a better life for them and their family.
Yes. Well, Denzil, it's been very enjoyable having you here in the studio.
Well, thank you, cousin.
Cousin Chris. And I tell you, when you told me that story, and then we were at the family reunion not long ago.
Yes.
It made me feel differently. It made me feel better.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think if you actually listen to it, and then you know that it's not going to be all that bad at the end.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Enjoy your life while you're here.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah,
exactly.
enjoy it and enjoy the people. And don't stress about stuff.
That's right.
Just, enjoy.
Just enjoy every day because it is a bonus.
That's right. Thanks, Denzil.
Thank you.